Well, Catherine Macaulay, as you probably know, was the founder of the Sisters of Mercy in Dublin, Ireland in the 1830s. She experienced both prosperity and poverty. So her family was doing okay. Her father died. Some years later, her mother died. And she and her two siblings were left as orphans.
She went to the Callahan family, and they did not have any children. They were Quakers. They were very generous. They were very wealthy. And so she began to manage the house there and cared for their affairs when they would travel.
Mrs. Callahan died in 1819 and Mr. Callahan in 1822. Mr. Callahan's will left everything to Catherine.
So Catherine Macaulay inherits this fortune from her aunt and uncle. By this point, she's a woman of mature years. And the thing that she should do by polite society is marry and use her money, donate her money to the church if she wants to do that, or basically she shouldn't be a single woman alone doing benevolent work. This is unheard of.
But she had a vision of bringing the women and children off the streets, and that's what she did.
She began building in 1824. The house didn't open until 1829. That was what was behind what came to be called the House of Mercy. So when she built the House of Mercy, one of the first things she wanted to provide was safe housing for young women.
And there are women living with her at Bagot Street who are believing what she's doing, want to have a life devoted to serving others.
So everywhere that the Sisters of Mercy went, when they went to a new town, let's say, to start a new convent, what we call a new foundation, they immediately would provide housing for women if there were some in the area who needed it. There's a story about Catherine Macaulay having a young woman knock at her door. The woman was desperate. She was working in the house of some rich family, apparently, and the master of the house was making advances on her, and she wanted to escape the situation, but she had nowhere to go. She turned to Catherine. Catherine had no means of taking her in. The house Catherine lived in wasn't her house. She referred the young woman to a charitable ladies organization, but they had to have a committee meeting in order to decide whether to take the young woman in, and their committee only met once a month. Needless to say, the young woman found no refuge. And Catherine used to insist that the poor need help now, today, not tomorrow. So I think that one of the things that she was very anxious for the Sisters of Mercy to do was to respond to need as it presented itself. They had several challenges, I think, starting out. First of all, there was a challenge of doing what they wanted to do when sisters, nuns, were not supposed to be doing that. They were not supposed to be out and about on the streets visiting the sick or discovering that there were women who needed a safe place to stay. So there was a lot of criticism that they couldn't really be authentic sisters because they were doing things that sisters never did. So the term walking sisters started in Ireland as a kind of derisive term. Oh, they say they're sisters, but look, they're out walking about the town. They can't be. So these are the walking sisters, that kind of thing. So there was that obstacle. There was the obstacle of poverty, money problems.
They were poor, The money that built Bagot Street didn't sustain them for beyond that. So they depended on other people, and because they were educating poor, they didn't get very much money.
So she was in Ireland. It was a place where opportunities for women were very limited, and much of that limitation came as a result of lack of education. So she saw that education was a key that would open a lot of doors.
Then there was also sickness and death. This was a time when tuberculosis was rampant and there was no known way really to cure it. Catherine herself died of tuberculosis. All that illness and death somehow did not keep people from wanting to join the community. Didn't seem to scare them away. So she took that as a sign that God was blessing their work despite all the struggles. there were women here who fought the good fight to try and make this happen.